guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm here today to do the happily married tag. I wasn't tagged by anyone, but I've seen a few other YouTubers do this tag, so I thought why not share my answers with you guys. I haven't done anything like any personal videos on this channel, so I thought this would kind of be fun to do so you guys can get a little bit more information on me. My computer is right here, which has all the questions on it, so if you see me looking over and down, that's what I'm looking at. There's 3 sections of the tag. There's pre-hubby, early days, and then wedding and marriage. So yeah, there's quite a few questions, so let's just get into it so this video is not super long. The first question is, did you date much before you met your husband? Okay, so Matt and I met when I was actually in 8th grade and he was a freshman in high school. We didn't start dating until several years later, but that's when we first met. So as an 8th grader, I wasn't dating much, but I did have quite a few, I shouldn't say quite a few, I had a few boyfriends between when we first met and when we actually started dating. Nothing super serious, only like a few months here and there. But yeah, he was my first serious relationship. Did online dating exist when you were dating? Would you have used it if it was? Online dating was definitely a thing when Matt and I started dating. It's something that I probably would never do. First of all, I was more of a shy person, and putting myself out there online and having to like go meet people, that just like isn't my thing. So yeah, I would never have online dated. Where do you think the best places are to meet a great guy? For me, and I know like everybody else has used the same kind of answer, it really just depends on like what your likes are, what your interests are. For me, I'm a huge sports fan, so if I wasn't married or Matt wasn't in my life, I'd probably be, finding somebody that enjoyed sports. I love to be outside, so somebody that loves to be outside. Somebody that shares the same interests with you would probably go to the same type of place that you would, and I think that would be a great thing. I know a lot of people say like church if you're religious. We are very religious, however, I don't know that I would ever look for a mate at church. I don't know, there's so many conflicts that can be had there, so that would be my others, where I would go. What qualities do you tell single women to look for in a man? Qualities that would be important to me is, number 1, somebody that is faithful. I mean, I think that's the obvious answer, but then one that's very up close with that, and then another quality that is just as important to me is somebody that can make you happy, somebody that can make you smile every single day. If you're with somebody that doesn't make you genuinely happy or make you smile, then that's just somebody that I would never want to be with. I think that laughter and smiling and just a good mood is such a big part of your life, a big part of life. And if you were somebody that didn't share that with you, I couldn't imagine being with someone like that. What dating advice have you or will you give your daughter? Well, my only daughter is my daughter that's a dog, and she's being awful right now. Sit. But if we were to have a daughter, I think the advice that I would give a daughter is just to truly enjoy life. And then I know that's like weird when it comes to dating, like that's not a typical answer, but I feel like there's so many rules and stipulations of, you have to be married by this time, or you have to have children by this time, and yada yada yada. And I feel like that's so crazy. Matt and I got engaged when I was 19. It was a week before my 20th birthday, and he was 21. And we had made an agreement with our parents to not get married until we were out of college, so we haven't even been married a year. It'll be a year December 7th. So while we had those rules for ourselves, I think it's important to set those rules for yourselves. Set your boundaries, set, goals for yourself, but don't be so caught up in, if it doesn't happen by this certain date or this certain year, it's never going to happen. Just enjoy your life. So I think that's the biggest thing that I would tell them. The next section is early days. How did you meet your husband and how old were you? I kind of already touched on this. We met in school. I was an 8th grader. He was a freshman in high school. I was a cheerleader and he was a football player. Not that you could ever tell I was a cheerleader now, but we'll move on from that. I was a cheerleader. He was a football player, and our 8th grade cheer team actually practiced with the freshmen. Well, it was the JV cheer team. We didn't have a freshman team in high school. So we practiced together, therefore we saw the football players quite often. And we were friends. We were friends up until we started dating, which was my junior year in high school. So I was, how old was I? 14, 13? I was 13 because I turned 14 my freshman year. So I was 13, he was 15, and we met through school. Did you play hard to get? This is a complicated one because when I first met him, I had like the little crush on him. I was in 8th grade and he was older and I thought he was really cute and I really liked his personality. And I didn't play hard to get at that point. And then he started dating a girl that I did not care for, and so we stopped talking altogether. And then it wasn't until a few years later that we started talking again. And at that point is when I played hard to get. He asked me to the homecoming dance and I turned him down. And he asked me again and I turned him down. And then his best friend came and said that he was dead serious and he really wanted to go with me, and that he wasn't, being a joking friend type of person, that he really liked me and he really wanted to go with me. So then I finally said yes. This was like 2 months before the dance was, ever was. And by the time the dance was, we were actually dating. So I did play hard to get. He was the one right away, and did he know you were the one right away? Because we had known each other for so long, I didn't think that, it wasn't like the moment we started dating that I knew he was the one I was going to marry. It was probably a few years later. We had been together for 2 years by the time I had graduated, and then we were going across state to college, and that's when I knew, and that's actually when he proposed. So I think for both of us, it was like we couldn't picture our lives without each other in it. But my dreams were to go to New York, and his dreams were to stay here or go to Florida and become a pilot. So our dreams were so different, and it had to be something that, we had to be practical, and I had to be smart about knowing that he might not be the person. But when we decided to both go to the same school, it was kind of like that was when, and that's, like I said, that's when he proposed. So I think that was when we figured it out. What qualities did your husband love about you when you were first dating? I should have asked him this, but we have talked about this, and this is going to sound cheesy, but it's what he always tells people, is he thought that he was the luckiest guy ever because I was the girl that he thought he could never have. And I had asked him one day what that meant, and he said, you were just somebody that had your together, and you knew what you wanted in life, and you knew what it was going to take to get that. And so I think it was like my drive and my determination that was like a big factor for him, because he knows this and we've talked about this. He was somebody that was like, I don't really know what I want to do. This is kind of what I want to do, but how am I ever going to achieve it? Where I was like, no, this is where I want to be, and this is what I want to do, and this is how I'm going to get it. So I think my drive kind of rubbed off on him, and I think that would be like the one thing he would say. Did you have a timeline for marriage? I didn't have a timeline for marriage, that was like, this is when it has to be done. But it was like, we had such a long engagement. We were engaged for 3.5 years before we got married. So because of that, we had a timeline, if that makes sense. Like, we had such a long engagement that we could make this timeline and we could have everything laid out. So yes, we did, but it wasn't like we have to be married by this time. It was like, this is when it's going to be most beneficial or when it's going to work best for us. Did you have to nudge your husband towards marriage? I did not have to nudge him towards marriage. I did, however, kind of bring it up when we were moving across state. So we were moving about 3.5 hours away from our family, just the two of us. Later did we know all of our friends were joining us, but we didn't know at that point. It was just the two of us moving across state. So I needed some kind of assurance that like he's going to be there for me, and that assurance ended up being a proposal, which was more than I had ever expected. But we had been talking about it and I knew it was coming at that point, but that was his way of showing that he was always going to be there for me. So I didn't have to nudge him towards proposing or marriage, but I needed some kind of like, I need to know that you're going to be there for me kind of thing, if that makes sense. How did your parents influence the type of marriage you wanted? I think my parents aren't married. They divorced before my first birthday, so I don't remember my parents being married, and my mom never got remarried, and my dad's been remarried a few times. So I think from my parents, we kind of took that you can make it through things. A fight or tiff isn't like the breaking point. I think that would be the thing from my parents. And then from his parents are still married. They've just celebrated their 30th wedding anniversary. And so for them, they were older when they got married. I shouldn't say older, but my parents got married right out of high school, and his parents got married well after college and had a family later on. And while they took time for themselves before they got married, and we're taking that time for ourselves before we have kids, I think that was something. Stability, it was really important for us to have a house and, jobs and that kind of thing before we kept adding, we added to our family. And that's, I think, what we took mostly from his parents, is having stability, having a backup plan, where my parents didn't have that. What did you love most about your wedding? The thing that I love most about our wedding was that we got to get married in the church that we got married in. I lost my stepdad, which I said my mom never got remarried, but he was my stepdad in the sense that my mom and him were getting married, they were engaged, and I lost him. He passed away my freshman year in high school. And his family belongs to a very prestigious church, and it's very, very hard to become a member. And so they sponsored us to get married there. And because I got to have my stepdad with me that day through the church, I think that was just that was the biggest thing. What elements of your wedding didn't matter as much as you thought they would? The bridal party. Matt and I'm sure this happens with most people that get married that have a bridal party, is you really, really find out who your true friends are through that process. I had 5 girls and Matt had 4 guys, and 2 of his guys were my brother and his brother, and then his best friend from childhood, and then another friend, and he doesn't talk to one friend at all, and I haven't talked to half of them. I haven't talked to half of them. One of them I will say that I probably will never talk to again. She's not a friend, and I really figured that out. So I think simply saying your bridal party. If I had to do it all over again, I probably wouldn't have had one. Is the first year of marriage really the hardest? Like I said, we are still in our first year. Our 1-year anniversary is December 7th. So I can't tell you if it's been the hardest or will be the hardest. I can say that there's been, some trials, not between us, but with everybody trying to give us the right advice, and for us to kind of just come together and say, this is our lives now, and these are the decisions that we're gonna make. So those have been trials. I don't know. I'll have to come back and think about that one. What advice do you give to newlywed couples? Going off of my last answer, probably just realizing that it's you two as a team now, and what you decide is what you decide. And not to let anybody else's opinions influence you too much. So yeah, I think that would be my number one thing, and then just to really enjoy it. Unfortunately, I mentioned this in a lot of videos, that Matt and I are on totally opposite schedules. We both have full-time jobs, but he works 12-hour shifts at the end of the week, and I work a normal shift, kind of. I do a lot of work from home, but my days are at the beginning of the week. So we literally have one day off a week together, and that's Sundays. Which is why there will probably not be uploads on Sunday, just an FYI, because that's like our day together. So yeah, I think just spending time together and cherishing like every moment that you guys do have together, because when you don't see each other that often, that can be hard. If you're religious, how has your faith influenced your marriage? I kind of touched on this one too. This is the last question. Faith was a big part in our wedding and our marriage. Without going too deep, because this can bring up a lot of criticism, I'm Catholic, and Matt now is as well. His mom is Baptist and was attempting at raising them in that faith. However, when Matt got old enough to kind of make that decision for himself, he really wasn't enjoying the Baptist church. He didn't feel at home there. And so when we got married, I had said, I'm a practicing Catholic. If you choose to get married in a church, period, I would prefer it to be a Catholic church, just because that's my faith. And he was adamant on getting married in a church instead of having a ceremony at the reception hall or whatever. And so we started talking about our options, and he said, I've really always been interested in the Catholic faith. I am very interested in it. So we had gone to church a few times, and he just he was super interested in it. He loved the way it was. He felt right at home, and he decided that he was going to become Catholic. So we went through a year of classes for him, and he had his baptism, his first communion, and his confirmation, and a huge ceremony on Easter Sunday. And he is now also a practicing Catholic. So, like I said, religion and faith has been a huge part in our marriage, and it's something that's very important for us to continue that on through our children. So that is the last question. I have no idea how long this is. Hopefully you guys are still watching and I didn't bore you to death, but I thought it would be kind of fun to give you guys an insight, kind of a little bit more about us. If you have any other tags that you want me to do, let me know, because I think they're really fun and I would love to do them. There's a few more fun ones that I really want to do. If they are makeup related, they will be on my other channel, but if they're just me sitting down and answering questions, then they'll be on this channel. So I hope you guys are having a great week. It's Friday, so I hope you guys have an amazing weekend and are staying warm. I will see you guys later. Bye guys.